When we started our process of the last pedestal and tried to determine who should be there, we got assistance from Dr. Magachi, John Righetti, and the board to put together people that we felt were worthy of being there. So I'm going to quickly go through the list because I think we're really running behind. I think Andy Warhol goes without saying. Everyone recognizes his work. It's unique, it's distinctive. He has given our culture a point of, a newness with his pop culture. We currently have at One World Day a feature where we have the children come, draw a question, go to the answer board, find the answer, and get a stamp in their passport book. They then get a paper bag, and they go to the tables that are nearby, and they become the artist. So we are hoping that down the road, we will continue to have more features that will incorporate Andy Warhol and to encourage young artists. Steve Ditko is the second name on our pedestal, and I think there are probably some pretty young people here, and even some of us who are my age, well, even probably more my age. Steve Ditko was the creator of Spider-Man. He was inspired by his father, who enjoyed Prince Valiant in the comics, and continued to grow his love for artwork and worked with several companies that did the comic kinds of artwork. And he also created Doctor Strange and a cosmic character called Eternity. So his legacy lives on in the comics. Bill Evans is a world-famous jazz pianist. He had influence on Herbie Hancock and Vince Guaraldi and many others. So anybody who has watched A Charlie Brown Christmas has heard Vince Guaraldi, who was inspired by Bill Evans with his musical talents. During his lifetime, Bill was nominated for 31 Grammys and awarded 7. James Warhol is another artist on our pedestal. He is Andy Warhol's nephew and is an artist and writer in his own right. So all of you little guys out there, the next time you go to the library, look for a book by James Warhol. And one that he wrote was Uncle Andy's Cats. So this was about Andy Warhol's cats. The next person on our list is Jerry Jumba, who comes from Pittsburgh, has spent a lifetime documenting, researching, educating in every sense of the word. Probably like 24/7 he has lived his musical life. He has a comment to make about our garden that happened back in 1980. So if you would like to share that story with everybody.
Thank you, Barb. It's very exciting to realize this level of a cultural awareness and how important it makes our lives enriched with music and art and dance and all kinds of language classes, growing a beautiful culture and in giving us a sense of spirituality from our heritage that we live every day and use it to grow. Now, back in 1980s here in Cleveland, there was some damage done in the Rockefeller Park. And the Duknovich statue that was there had its head cut off. So there was George Washington of the Rusyn people in a prominent park, and his head was missing. And that prompted Bob Magochi from Canada, to come down here one day. He called me, he said, "I'm arriving at the Cleveland airport. Take me to Rockefeller Park. I want to take a picture of that headless statue." And he used that picture on the front cover of Carpatho-Rusyn American Journal to spark people back to a sense of cultural propriety and being accepted and appreciated. Even though Rusyns are a small people, they have a beautiful, expressive culture. And he came and took those pictures, and I drove him back to the airport and back to Canada. But what the consequence of that was, he wrote about the absence of that head here in Cleveland in Rockefeller Park. And ever since, the local people, like Mr. Krenitsky here, took up the charge for all of this to happen. The local Rusyns here realized how important it was that that statue be restored, and all of it should be made beautiful with all the people that you're working with. We're so proud of what you did in Cleveland. Thank you so much. And I wanted you to know that although Magochi couldn't be there, he had the sense of forethought to irritate people by putting a headless statue on the front cover of that journal. And think, look at this. What's happened? Let's bring all cultures and raise them up and have the blessings of our labors. Thank you very much.
Next, we're going to move on to inventors and scientists, and the first on our list is Nicholas Holonyak. Again, you little guys, you all know LEDs, right? LEDs to us are like really new. To you, it's like every day. Nicholas Holonyak invented and demonstrated the first semiconductor for laser diodes that emit visible light. He predicted that his LEDs would replace incandescent lights. And anybody who's used a mouse with their computer can thank Nicholas Holonyak, a Rusyn. Nicholas Popovic provided the necessary foundation for large-scale production of HIV, which in turn enabled the development of the first diagnostic test that could be used to screen patient blood samples, blood donations, and human blood-derived products for the presence of HIV, thereby saving many lives by screening blood products used for transfusions and to treat hemophiliacs. Dr. Popovic is a Rusyn. We have next the writers that we want to cover. Irina Borikova-Novitska has a special connection to us here in Cleveland. Paul came to me one day and said, "I'd like to do a program about Irina Novitska." And I said, "And who might that be?" And he said, "Well, she's my great aunt." It turns out that she was a poetess, a writer, an educator, a woman who was very much ahead of her time. She encouraged women to go out and do things that they probably weren't doing at the time, and was a very ahead of her time kind of a woman. So I do believe we have several people here who are representing Irina. So if you could stand up for just a minute. What a wonderful legacy to have in your family. She sounds like a remarkable woman. The next person on our list is Father Emil Bjork, who is a prolific writer, also encouraged education of children to help them improve their plot in life. His church was in Mahanoy City, so he's dead in the middle of coal country where, your parents were probably, your father was probably a coal miner. Your mother might have been taking in wash to make ends meet. And he documented the life during that time of the people living in Mahanoy City.
Can I mention that I have his poem? It's called No, We Will Not Die. He wrote this to encourage the Rusyn people in the coal mines of eastern Pennsylvania to go in and really hit it hard and show that they were great people, strong religious, without a country. So I have some extra copies of it. There's some over here. If I would like, I'd like to see this in every church or something, a Byzantine church, even Orthodox church that has a Rusyn background, that his poem is in there. Thank you.
Dr. Nicholas Kopinski has researched and has created a YouTube video if anybody's interested in learning more about Father Kubek. Dr. Paul Robert Magachi is probably familiar to 99% of the people in this room. He's responsible for our village map. In addition to that, he has written many, many books on the subject of Rusyns, their travels to the United States, their lifestyles, etc. He's one of the founders of the Carpatho-Rusyn Research Center and has done a remarkable job of helping to make people aware of their own Rusynness and to help other people to understand that as well. Brother Alexander Duknovich, as John Rigetti mentioned, was imprisoned in a Hungarian prison and refused to give up his Rusyn heritage. He said, I was, and I will be Rusyn. And so this is the reason his bust is in our garden, in the Carpatho-Rusyn garden. Tom Ridge was the governor of Pennsylvania. He was also the first director of Homeland Security after 9/11. He has spent a lot of years in public service and has done a lot of work to help improve the economic situation within Pennsylvania. John Rigetti. What can we say about John Rigetti? Everyone here knows John Rigetti. We know only a portion of the contributions this man has made to you and me and Rusyns all over the world. Would you like to say something, John? No? You may not know, he was also a facilitator for the Carpatho-Rusyn Consortium of North America and has worked with U.S. and European Union and various European governments on human rights issues for Carpatho-Rusyns. He's not just here, he's in Europe. He has done a phenomenal job. Michael Strank, I'm going to go to the little guys again. How many of you have been to Washington, D.C., gone to Arlington Cemetery, and seen a really large statue of the Marines raising the flag on Iwo Jima? Michael Strank grew up in coal country once again in Pennsylvania, enlisted in the Marines, and rapidly grew to the rank of sergeant. Was stationed on Iwo Jima when Mount Suribachi was conquered, and it was during that time that a flag was raised on that piece of ground stating that we have it. And He was actually part of the second raising because someone decided the first flag wasn't big enough. So he was part of the group of Marines that was photographed in the iconic photo of the raising of the flag on Mount Suribachi. I'm not going to go into too much for Gregory Zotkovich because John's going to tell us a little more about Carpatho-Rusyn Day and why we celebrate. So I'm going to kind of skip over him for the moment. That leaves us with Bishop Paul Goydich. He was a remarkable man who had a sense of needing to support the Rusyns and the Jews within the communities where he lived, particularly during the times of World War II. It was said that there were many, many conversions of Jews to help save Jewish lives during that time. He was imprisoned, refused to be freed, and consequently died. He died in prison. He has since been beatified by Pope John Paul II, and he has been honored by Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial as one of the righteous among the nations, which is an unbelievable honor. Is Rebecca here?
Yes.
Rebecca is how far back?
He is my first cousin twice removed, my grandmother's first cousin. So, unfortunately, he passed in 1960. I wasn't born until 1963. So, I had no opportunity. I really didn't even know of him until after my Aunt Martha's funeral. And my dad came home with this great big bronze bust of Bishop Goydich, and we're all like, who is this? You know, so he told us pretty much the whole story. And after my dad passed away, I had the bish, as we called him, in my dining room. A lot of people would come in my big window, they'd see it, they're like, who's sitting there? Who you got, a company or something? I said, nah, that's the bish, we're good. So then after I was widowed, he kind of kept me company until my Uncle Zoltan asked for him to be returned so that he could donate it to one of his local parishes for a memorial. So, yeah, I have a quote here, which I think you have on the marker out there, and it pretty much sums up everything that he stood for, which is, I am certain that at the end, truth will triumph over lies, and love will overcome hatred. I don't hate my enemies. I would love to bring them closer to Christ. Of course, not by force or deceit, but by love and truth.
That concludes the, pardon?
I want to speak up on behalf of my Uncle Alex Wood, who smuggled personal writings of Bishop Goydich out of Slovakia and Ukraine and brought it here. And I do believe it's in the hands of the priest at St. Stephen's, which is now her name. So I want to, my Aunt Margaret, that's her husband, who is deceased, he's my uncle. And I thought, he should be remembered as well. He was, Bishop Goydich was also related to us, the Guric family.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that.